Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Chase. I'm your host, Christian Dyer, and today I have a very special guest. Not only my friend, not only somebody I work with, but a huge mentor in my life, Devin Salinas. Welcome.
Happy to be here, man. Thanks for making this happen.
Yeah, I'm very grateful to have you on. And so if you're new here, the whole premise of The Chase is about chasing a dream in life. It's about doing things in your life that you really want to do. It's taking risks. It's the ability to go down that road and one day look back on your life with no regret. And I think that's something that a lot of people experience these days. And I've heard firsthand experiences and stories of people that wish they did something different or wish they took that risk and that leap. And that's why I started The Chase, is to have conversations, to give you the confidence, give you the toolkit, and, just the knowledge to go do that. So you're never in that position of regret. And so bi-monthly, which is our goal right now, Devin and I are going to hop on here. We're going to have conversations about the fundamentals of life, about how to chase the life that you keep telling yourself you really want to live. And I figured if Devin and I are having those conversations in private and they're benefiting me so much, why shouldn't we spread the message to the public? And that's why we're here. Dev, I'm grateful that you're a part of my life and you wanted to, join this pursuit of mine.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to be here. And as you know, this is something that I have been kicking around and hesitating and not taking action on. So this is a nice way for me to take a step in the right direction. And hopefully we'll come up with some great content that we can share with your followers and the people in our lives, and hopefully add some value along the way. And
absolutely. No.
Fun having these conversations together.
There we go. And so, the first conversation or the first topic that I wanted to have with you is about doing what you love in life. Mm-hmm. And first I wanted to hear your piece on that and quite frankly ask you, are you doing something right now that you love?
Yeah. I have some maybe interesting perspectives on this idea. And it's not that fundamentally I don't think it's important to do things that you're passionate about. I do think that it is critically important that you create a life that gives you satisfaction and fulfillment. I think one of the challenges is that people often misinterpret short-term emotion for being the same as what you're calling love, or what I might call long-term satisfaction, or at its highest level, fulfillment. Mm. And so, in my life, there are a lot of things that professionally that I love about my career that I've chosen. I love the opportunity to connect and build relationships with clients. I love that I'm in a position to be able to lead and influence others in a positive way. I love that I can help people in a very important area of their life that I think has downstream effects. But there's a lot of parts of my career that are quite challenging, and that I wouldn't say that I love. Yeah. Similarly in athletic pursuits, right? And I'm sure that you can relate to this, is there's a lot of things about the process of becoming fit that I love. There's a lot of enjoyment and satisfaction that I get out of training consistently, getting faster, getting leaner, getting stronger, whatever that might be. It feels good to be fit, and I think it changes the way you show up in the world. But better than most, right, that there's a lot of days where you might not love the process of getting fit and staying fit. And so, I have this quote that I share often, particularly with some young people that I mentor, and it's not my quote. I don't know who I stole it from, but we will find out who that is, and we'll let you guys know. But the quote is that amateurs do what they love, professionals love what they do. Yeah. And the idea, or what that means to me, is that to truly get fulfillment out of whether it's a professional avocation, even a relationship, or something that you're pursuing in life, it takes time, right? And long-term fulfillment can't be found. And I think sometimes, particularly young people, move through life And the moment that they face some resistance, or the moment that they feel some challenge, or the world kind of pressing back on them, and it doesn't feel fun or doesn't feel like something they love, they retreat from that.
Yep.
And that goes back to what I said at the outset, is that there's a misinterpretation of what it means to do what you love, right? And I think people are misinterpreting a short-term emotion for what is ultimately long-term satisfaction. So, in the professional setting, I'll talk with young advisors in my firm all the time, and they'll say, I'm not feeling like I'm having an impact, or I'm not feeling fulfillment in the work that I'm doing. And I'm just not sure that this is for me. And I'm like, dude, you've been here 60 days. Like you barely even know the ins and outs. You've only got a couple of clients you've worked with. You haven't yet seen the impact of the work that you do. And
yep.
It's similarly in a relationship, right? Like I tend to be one of the lucky people who, maybe got struck by lightning. And the night I met my wife, I said, I'm going to marry that woman. But the love that we have today is very different than what I felt in that moment. Yeah. Right. What I felt in that moment was a fleeting emotion. What I have today is this deep, all-encompassing love and passion for a life that we're building together. And you don't get to that without going through some struggles and challenges.
Yep.
Right? And so it's the same thing in the professional world. You can't expect to get satisfaction and fulfillment and love when you've been at something for 60 or 90 days, right? I mean, it takes time, and it's actually through that process. In my experience, it's through that process of overcoming challenges and growing in your mastery and proficiency of what it is that you do that you will actually find that love, right? It's this idea that, again, I said it before, but fulfillment can't be found. It has to be constructed. And it reveals itself through the process of showing up every single day and doing the work.
No, well said. And it's funny because everybody these days tells you, do something you love, because then you'll never have to work another day in your life. Like that's such a cliche thing, but everybody's saying it, especially coming from mom, dad, grandma, and grandpa. Yeah. But I think there's a caveat to that, because like you said, the short-term chase is temporary. And what I've learned from playing sports is, as much as I love playing rugby, I think a bigger piece of what I love about it is the process, both mentally and physically. So I love working out. I love training. I love eating healthy. I love waking up early and going to bed early. Like, I love my routine. I love getting to travel. There's so many little things besides the title behind my name that I'm truly passionate about that I'm starting to, number one, just have that emotional awareness around. Because if you asked me 5 years ago, I would not even be able to have this conversation with you. But if you take rugby out of my life now, I'm happy, because I can still do those little things each and every day, despite not having the title in the sport, in my life. And I think that's a big piece of the puzzle that a lot of people aren't talking about, is just because you're a financial advisor, you're a wealth manager, that's just a small piece of your life. And you can love so much more about your life, regardless of your profession. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It's interesting, as you were saying that, the question that I was going to ask is, have you always loved those parts of it? Or is that something that has changed over time?
No, I haven't, to answer your question. Because I honestly didn't realize the importance of those little rocks. Because I was always thinking about the next game, what team I'm going to make. Maybe in a year, when I was at Cal Berkeley, when I was a freshman, I'm thinking, when I'm a sophomore, I'm going to play more. When I'm a junior, I could be a team leader. Senior, I'm a captain. I'm an All-American. Boom. I wasn't even thinking about, hey, I got a workout today. Let's go kill that workout. I wasn't thinking about, I got practice today. How can I be better today and tomorrow, and compound that week after week, month after month? So then by the time I'm that senior, I'm a completely different person and player.
Yeah.
Now, after having an ACL tear, which took me out of rugby for 20 months, number one, I found out what the importance of winning the day all meant. Number two, it was the first time in my life out of my control that rugby was taken out. I didn't have that thing in my life that I thought was the only thing that made me smile. I appreciated the little moments in my life. And I also realized that my friends, my family, everybody loved me, not just because I played rugby, but because I'm Christian Dyer. So that's when I was introduced to the idea of loving the process, loving the little things, and not allowing what you do to basically become your identity.
Yeah.
Because for me, sport's so temporary, and I know that it could end tomorrow with an injury. Knock on wood, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the daily habits, it's the behaviors, it's being in a team setting, it's helping a teammate become a better player. Those are the little things that I'm starting to fall in love with, because that's 99% of my life right now.
Yeah.
The game on the weekend, I get maybe 20, 25 of them a year. That's nothing compared to what I'm going to do every single day. And so that's where I'm starting to fall in love with.
Yeah. It's interesting, like athletics, particularly athletics at the level that you're performing as a professional, is such an amazing platform to discover those things, right? And success in athletics almost necessitates that you fall in love with the process. And I think, unfortunately, in a lot of other arenas in life, particularly in the professional setting, because I'm sure for a lot of your listeners, right, that's something that maybe they're thinking about. They're young professionals. They're doing something that they're wondering, like, is this it? Is this where I'm going to see myself? I thought I was going to be the next Evan Spiegel and founded Snapchat by now and be a billionaire. And like, it hasn't quite worked out that way. Right. And so I think sometimes in the professional setting, particularly, people get so focused on the outcome. And look, for high achievers, for achievement oriented people like you and I, and like most of the people that are listening to this podcast, it is naturally ingrained in us at a deep core level to be results oriented and to be achievement oriented. And I actually love that. I think that's super important. I think there's a lot of people out there today who have over rotated away from that. And I think that's creating a lot of problems where it's just everybody's okay being okay. And I don't believe in that way of living either. But part of the challenge when we get so obsessively focused on the next thing and it being about the result is, number one, results can be fleeting. Number two is that progress in most areas of your life takes time, and it usually takes longer than what we want it to take. And, I remember being a young advisor and saying, I'm going to make $1 million a year by the time I'm 25. And then I got to 25 and I wasn't there. It was like, I'm going to make $1 million net by the time I'm 30. And then I got 30 and I didn't hit the number. Right. And I'm still pursuing different levels of success in my life. But what I've realized now is that it's probably going to take longer than I expect. And so if I'm only being driven by that outcome and it takes longer than I expect, the part of the challenge, right, is that, again, people will have to press up against this resistance and they're going to fail and fail and fail. And more often than not, people will detach or give up and redirect their energy. And my experience is that you actually fall in love with the thing through that process of overcoming resistance. So in 2019, I set a goal that I wanted to do a Ironman 70.3. So it's a 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike, 13.1 mile run. I wanted to do it in under 4 hours and 30 minutes. And I had come up with that goal because as I looked at the three different disciplines of triathlon, I looked at my training, I felt like that was the edge of my potential. I felt like, hey, if things go right, I think I can do that. And it would have to be a great day for me. And I started writing that goal every morning in my journal, sub 4:30, IM 70.3, sub 4:30, IM 70.3. And every day for over 3 years, I wrote down that goal. And I towed the line multiple times at races and I fell short. And I failed and I failed and I failed and I failed. And it took me until December of 2022 to finally hit that objective and achieve that goal. what I know in my own life, right? Had I gone through that experience at 23, 24, 25, I don't think I would have the perspective to be able to stay in the game, to find the satisfaction and fulfillment in the process of the pursuit. And when I fell short, the third or fourth time, I probably would have given up on the goal. But like, man, it's so much sweeter when you achieve something on the other side of struggle, right? Like I think in athletics, right? Again, as an example, you see highly talented people that get to a certain level, but because they've been so talented, they haven't really developed the work ethic and the disciplines and the passion for that process that you talked about. And that talent will run out at some point. And if people don't have the talent plus the work ethic, inevitably they're going to fall short of their potential. And oftentimes those people, it's a very rare person that you will find that has the talent combined with the passion and the love for the process. That's the Kobe's, the LeBrons, the Michael Jordans of the world. Yep. They have both, right? And so I guess the question for your listeners, right, is there are things that you have natural talents in your life. And I would imagine that for most of us, we tend to love the things that we're good at.
Yep.
The question would be, how hard are you working on developing those skill sets to take you to whatever the next level is, whether that's, again, as an athlete or in your professional career, and judge yourself not by the stage that you're reaching or by the promotion that you're reaching, but I would encourage you to reflect on, what is my process of growth, right? I use this theme in my office. I want to be urgent on inputs, patient on outcomes. So hyper urgency on the inputs, the day-to-day process, but I'm going to be patient and understanding that the outcomes, while I'm pursuing them with diligence and intent, they may take a little longer than I would like, but that's okay because I'm so focused on just showing up every day and doing what I need to do to take one step closer to that goal.
No, that's gold right there. But I think, Dev, and I'd love to hear your piece on this, is I think the minute the process to some people, to most people, becomes boring,
yep,
results seem too far in the distant, or there's setbacks, is when a lot of people, number one, stop chasing that. The pursuit's over. And I think a lot more people need to understand that there's going to be struggle along the chase. Mm-hmm. And more so than not, in the beginning stages, you may not love what you do. Mm-hmm. But if that idea later down the road or that dream is big enough, I think that will allow you to make the sacrifices in the short term.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's about saying, I'm not happy right now. I don't really love what I'm doing right now. But if I can continue down this road, I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but there's probably a greater chance that outcome is, the desirable outcome if I continue going. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's something that a lot of people need to think about, is just because you don't love what you're doing right now doesn't mean you won't love it tomorrow or next week or next year or 5 years from now.
Right. Right. Yeah. The beginning stages are always going to be the most challenging, right? Like, you're always going to be the worst at the beginning. And I think, unfortunately, the way that this manifests itself in most people's lives is they get this idea and they think, man, I would love to do that. And then they start down that path and they get a few days, few months, few weeks into it, and they're like, wow, this is harder than I thought, right? And rather than doubling down on the inputs and again, orienting their energy around, what am I doing on a day-to-day basis to make one step closer to this? They get so obsessed with this thing that they decide, if I can't have this, I don't love it. The reality is, you probably still love that thing. You just aren't willing to go through the process of attaining it.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a Jim Rohn quote that I always share, that success will rarely exceed your level of personal development, because success is not something you attain. It's something that you attract based on the person that you're becoming. And so I think the more time people can spend thinking about, who am I becoming? how am I developing as an individual? What are the challenges and the resistance and the struggle that I'm overcoming through my professional and athletic pursuits? How are those shaping me as a person? Right?
Yeah.
Because most people attach so firmly to the identity of those things that if it's taken away from them, like you said, all of a sudden they've lost who they are. But it's so beautiful when somebody gets to a place like you're at today where you can say with confidence that, look, I know that athletics is short term. I know that this is finite. I know there's an end date, but I'm going to show up every day and be the best I can because I know these are transferable skills.
Yeah, no. And before we wrap this up, give you a little context and the listeners a little context, kind of where my head's at now with what you just touched on, sports being temporary, because right now I have athletic goals. There's things I want to accomplish. I want to go to a World Cup, right? That's a moment. That's a specific goal.
Yeah.
But what's bigger is I'm envisioning the type of person that I want to become.
Yeah.
So the daily habits, the behaviors, the systems I put in place ultimately is the game for me right now.
Mm.
The person I want to become, boom, World Cup's in there. So if I continue chasing that person, knock on wood, an injury doesn't get in the way, World Cup should come my way. But I got to stick to doing the little things each and every day. I still need to improve my rugby. I need to improve my ability to be a great teammate, to be a great brother. That's where my head's at. Because I think instead of chasing outcomes, instead of chasing positions, start chasing that future self that you really, really want to become.
Yeah.
Understand who it is, what the conversation around that person looks like, the influence that person has on family and peers, because I think that's really the game.
Yeah.
And that's attainable. Because there's things in life, there's things in sports, there's things in your career, and that you can't control.
Mm-hmm.
But who you are as a human being is completely in your control.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those are wise words, man. The last thing that I would maybe put on this topic is the importance of perspective. And perspective defines our experience of life, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's easy to allow perspective to be asserted on us and not take control of that. And so if you can understand and maybe change the angle or the lens or the viewpoint of what you're evaluating in your life, again, adjust that perspective, that is one of the most freeing things that you can do yourself. What you just said before there, and I hope people will go back and listen to that, but I'm focused on the person that I'm becoming. And right now, my platform through which I am developing as an individual is athletics.
Yeah.
But tomorrow it might be business. And after that, it might be being a dad. And after that, it might be being a great leader in my community. Whatever, the platform might change. But if I can stay focused on the perspective of who am I becoming as a person, I think you can find love in a lot of different platforms.
Well said. Well said. No, I think you just tied it up beautifully. So everybody listening, hey, that was episode 1. I'm actually shocked how great Devin was. I had no idea. I had no doubt that we were going to have a cool conversation, but I think it just went on so many different tangents that I couldn't expect it to go in, and they were all in really, really cool ways. And I hope each and every one of you guys listening, could draw some value from this and hopefully begin to implement some of these mindsets and behaviors to your life. And so, Dev, thanks for being on. Thanks for episode 1 of many.
Yeah, man. Hey, thanks for coming up with this, and I'm excited for it. And like I said at the outset, hopefully people get some value out of it.
Absolutely. So I'll see you for round 2.
Sounds good, brother. Thank you.
All right, we'll talk soon.